So I was telling you that at Tehran, Stalin is really pushing for an Allied or for Western powers to invade Europe proper. Okay? Which they were saying they would do. And Stalin's like, yeah, right. You can't even tell me who's going to command this thing. All right? If you're really serious about this, should you name a commander? And so, if you're going to invade in 1944 and it's late 1943, it really is time to get somebody picked out for this thing. Okay? And so, partially because it needs to be done, but second, also to show Stalin they are serious, they will go ahead and name a commander, which I'll get to here in a minute. So if you wrote down the original outline back at the beginning of this lecture 13, C as in cat, it said opening the second front. Okay, there's a couple of slides in the original outline, but I'm going to kind of insert another bigger part here because I don't know if you figured this out or not, but this is kind of like my specialty. Okay, all right. So now you all get to suffer through it. All right. So second front, invasion of Europe. This is known as Operation Overlord. Okay. Operation Overlord is the plan to invade France. Okay, the Allied invasion of Normandy, to be specific. Normandy, France. It will end up taking place on June 6, 1944. More on that in a minute. Let's see here. Now, the group that's going to do this is known as XIII. That's the Supreme Headquarters of the Allied Expeditionary Force. This is their shoulder patch that they wear on their sleeve. Okay, well, up on their shoulder. All right. Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force. Now, there have been people planning out this invasion for months. Actually, more like a year, I suppose. There's actually a planning group. Before we even know who the commander is, there's a dedicated team of specialists just figuring out how could you do this. Okay. But in January of 40, and then the January of 44 target date for invasion may be May. Maybe you can do it in May. You can't do it in winter. Weather's too bad, right? In January, the commander arrives. This guy you need to know, Dwight David Eisenhower. Now, he had been fighting in the Mediterranean. He was involved in the invasions of North Africa and Italy. Now he's been removed from that position and moves up to England, okay, to take over XIII and be in charge of this operation to land Allied troops into France. Okay. Now, Eisenhower's an American because the Americans will be providing most of the troops, or the majority of the troops. I won't say most, but the majority of the troops will be Americans. The ships, we're carrying a good chunk of this, so it's important that the commander be an American. Now, because this is an Allied effort, you have to, share the wealth. And so, as the number 2 guy, the actual ground force commander of the troops that will be going ashore, is a British general named Bernard Montgomery, who'd been fighting in North Africa and also in Italy. So Eisenhower's in charge. Then, of course, he has a naval commander. He has an Air Force commander. Some of these, like the naval commander, is British. I think the Air Force commander was British. But there's Americans too. So it's like a team. There's like a unit here. So Eisenhower and Montgomery are looking over the preliminary plans for Overlord. They look pretty good, but by now they've both pulled off invasions in Italy and Sicily, and they say, man, we need more troops than what have originally been allotted. Okay, we need at least another division, to land on the first day. So we're going to have to enlarge the plan a little bit. Now, the upshot of this is this pushes it away from doing a May invasion. Okay? Target date was May. If you add another division, you're going to need more landing craft. You need more troops. You got to accumulate more stuff. Okay, and so by delaying the invasion, pushing it back towards June, that allows like another months of production of landing craft, which are the little small boats that will actually carry the troops ashore to get built and get shipped over to England. So now the target date for the invasion of Normandy is going to be in June. Okay? Now, The Allied air forces are doing everything possible to cut off the beachhead area from the Germans. They're bombing bridges and railroads and anything that could hamper the possibility of Germans moving reinforcements into the area. There's also a deception campaign known as Operation Fortitude, which was a big misinformation campaign meant to confuse the Germans into what was really going on. But this is the target area. It's the Cotentin Peninsula, which is part of the Normandy region of France. Okay. The logical place to land, gosh, I wish I had put another map up here, but I didn't think about it. The logical place, we'll probably see the map here later, would be the Pas de Calais. The Pas de Calais is the skinniest part of English Channel. It's only about 20 miles from Dover to Calais. It's the logical place to land because the ships could shuttle back and forth more quickly. Aircraft could stay over the invasion beaches longer. It's also closer to Germany, so it's really the logical place to land. Hitler, of course, can read a map as well. He knows it's the logical place to land, and so we're looking for places that aren't so obvious. Okay, and there's only certain places that meet all the parameters. Okay, and one is Normandy. You need beaches where you can bring the craft ashore. They would like to have a port within distance of the beaches that they could seize to bring bigger ships in, because it's very hard to unload heavy equipment over beaches quickly and efficiently. Flat ground to build airfields. I mean, there's a list of parameters, and we won't go into them because it's not a military history class. And there's reasons why Normandy is a suitable area. It is farther from Germany. In fact, it's facing south, really. And we had a proper map. You see that these arrows are actually heading south, and Germany's to the west. So if you go into Normandy, you're going to have to head south and then pivot and turn and cut across France to head into Germany. But for various reasons, this is where they decide to go. So the plan, let me get my pen here. The plan is to land, you see the arrows here? There's going to be 5 beaches. Okay. Codenamed Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, Sword. Don't ask me the exact order. Actually, I think you can see it on the map if you blow it up enough. 2 American beaches, 2 British beaches, 1 Canadian beach. Okay. They will land paratroopers on the flanks of the beachhead to seize key bridges or destroy key bridges and block roads and try to keep German reinforcements from coming in and catching the troops on the beachheads while they're vulnerable. Okay. Now, there's a list of parameters on when to time the invasion. Their paratroopers would like a full moon so they can see, because they're going to jump at night. So they like a full moon that's going to set early. Okay, so they want light when they drop, and then they want it to get dark. Okay. The Navy needs this tide to be at a certain place at a certain time. You want to come in at you think you might want to come in at high tide so there's less beach, but then you can't see the obstacles which are planted. So you want lower tide. So anyway, there's all these parameters, night and tide and whatever. And so the target window for the invasion is June 5th, 6th, and 7th. June 5th, 6th, and 7th of 1944. It's one of the 4 dates I expect people to know, by the way, is the date of D-Day, which is, what they call it. I won't try to explain why because of time constraints. But anyway, so target date for D-Day, the invasion, is June the 5th. Okay? There's just one problem. The weather forecast coming in for June the 5th, they're starting to make the final decisions. The troops are being briefed on their objectives. They're being loaded aboard the ships. On the the 3rd and 4th. It takes days to get this thing rolling. And the weathermen come in, okay, and they say, General, the weather is going to be horrible on June the 5th. Now, they don't have computer modeling back thin. Okay, it's all trained meteorologists looking at barometers, and they have weather ships out further in the Atlantic. They can let you know what conditions are like, like in Ireland or wherever. But there's a certain amount of, and there's no satellite photos, right? There's no fat satellite, weather satellites. There's no computer, modeling. You're having to make a gut call based on their knowledge as meteorologists, and they say the weather on the 5th is going to be horrible. Okay, so Eisenhower puts a 24-hour hold on the invasion to be reevaluated. Okay, because you've got a 3-day window. The weathermen come back like the next day. They say the weather on the 6th is going to be better. It'll still be bad, but it will be better than on the 5th. All right. Now, at this point, Eisenhower has to make a decision. He can hold out for the 7th. If he schedules it for the 6th, it'll be too late to reset for the 7th, because by this point the ships have started to move and they're using fuel. So he can either delay to the 7th or go on the 6th and then not go the 7th. And then the next window is not out for 2 weeks. Okay? He postpones the whole invasion for 2 weeks. The men have already been briefed. Okay? Security has been broken. Can they keep this thing under wrap for 2 more weeks? So it's a very tense gut check moment for Eisenhower. So he asks his various team, there's the various generals in charge and admirals, okay, and what are the pros and cons of going on the iffy weather of June the 6th or holding out for the next 2-week window? Everybody agrees they can't put this thing off. The men are on edge. They've been briefed. You've got to worry about security. Could the Germans pick up on something? You can't hold these men on a ship for 2 weeks. There's not enough food, all right? You're going to have to put them back ashore. Somebody's going to talk. And so Eisenhower makes the decision that they will go, and the D-Day will be June the 6th. A slide here before we change. All right. At this point, his options are very limited. All right. He's started this thing going. It's like putting a machine in motion. He can't stop it. Okay, it's now out of his hands. He's done all he can do for the moment. It's up to the people under his command to do it. So Eisenhower's got a little bit of time on his hands. Okay, he scribbles out a message. Let me see if I can read it. It's kind of small here, but I've read it many times. It says, "Our landings in the Cherbourg-Le Havre area have failed to gain a satisfactory foothold, and I have withdrawn the troops. My decision to attack at this time and place was based on on best information available." Okay. The troops, the air, and the Navy did all that bravery and devotion to duty could do. If any blame is found attached to the attempt, it is mine alone. And he dates it. And it's hard to read other people's handwriting, but that sure doesn't look like June to me. That looks like July 5th. This guy is so keyed up and so stressed. He's living on cigarettes and coffee that he dated his note July 5th instead of June 5th. And he writes this out and folds it up and puts it in his pocket. This is the D-Day failure message, that if this all goes to you-know-where, this is what he's going to go tell the press. It's all my fault. Fortunately for Eisenhower, it'll work. There's a very famous photo, Americans going ashore on D-Day. This is one of the landing craft I told you about. It's called the Higgins boat. They were made by the Higgins Company in New Orleans, Louisiana, which is why the World War II Museum is there. It was originally the D-Day Museum. And ashore they go. And it's pretty dicey, but I'm coming up on the time limit, so we'll pause here and we'll pick back up in the next video.